Hello. Today we are making dairy-free Marry Me chicken, and we're going to talk about why the heck you should be dairy-free. I'm Molly. I'm a gut health dietitian. I have Crohn's disease, and I used to be a chef, and I happen to be about 95% dairy-free. So with dairy, the Marry Me chicken is like a tomatoey, creamy, delicious simmered chicken dish. And in order for something to be simmered, we need cream or a high-fat dairy so that it doesn't break. I don't know if you've ever tried to like boil milk or something like that, but it does like get those little pieces in it, kind of separates, and that's because there's not enough fat in it. So to make a dairy-free version of this dish, we're using a full-fat canned coconut milk. Coconut milk comes in all kinds of different forms, including the carton, like right next to the almond milk, but this is the one that I like, canned coconut milk, and all the recipes for everything that I make, click once down below in the description of the episode. It'll take you to the Google Drive link, and I update that link every week with new recipes. So really exciting. So I've got my salt and pepper here, and I'm just going to salt and pepper my chicken. Let's make sure you can see that. This one's pretty easy, but it takes a little while for it to cook. So first I'm going to salt and pepper my chicken. And what I've done with this chicken is I've kind of taken 1 pack of chicken breasts. So the recipe says 1.5 pounds. It's really kind of like whatever is in a pack. You're not going to make or break it if it's more or less. I would recommend getting more because you are going to want leftovers, and this reheats really well. And the cool thing about this dish is that you can actually really have it with anything. So you could have it with pasta, you could have it with rice, have it with the risotto that I made, have it with anything. So what I've done with the chicken is I kind of have cut them into these smaller pieces just to make it a little easier, more evenly cooked, because sometimes the breasts are bigger, sometimes they're smaller. So I wanted to get them all kind of the same size so that they cook at all kind of the same rate. So we're now in the meantime, I'm going to be using this coconut milk. I've got my herbs from the garden. We close out the garden. So basically these are the leftover tomatoes that just didn't get eaten. I roasted them at 400 degrees for 10 minutes and in a little bit of olive oil. So I'm going to throw those in with the cherry tomatoes, with the sun-dried tomatoes, but these aren't in the recipe. So my first move is going to be to cut up this garlic, and we do this a lot, but just now if you're sensitive to garlic, you don't have to use this. And I took the onion actually out of the recipe and just added green onion at the end because I think it's kind of just easier to see something like that. Well, here we go. So I bonk it and then kind of take the coating off of this like that. And then we just get rid of these skins. Keep going like that. I've got all my garlic peeled, but I want to tell you a little bit about like dairy free. So you see a lot of these things, right? All these elimination diets that are like, oh, the IBG8 or the low FODMAP or this or that. And I never think that we should follow a diet with a name necessarily, because the name is not your own. And sometimes it's going to be either more expensive or more labor intensive, or you don't have to cut out all those things. And then you're just starving your body of all these wonderful foods. Which sucks, right? So I don't think we should follow a diet with a name, but the two things that cause the most GI distress are definitely dairy and gluten. So if we were going to eliminate anything, those would be the two. I'm going to cook it in 2 batches because I think it's going to go ahead and be a little too overcrowded the pan. When the pan has too much stuff in it, what happens is it just kind of boils in the juices and it doesn't get a nice little color crustation on it. And we want that beautiful color. Covering it up because it's too loud. Okay, so, lots of things. I'll chop my herbs while we're doing this. So I've got my garlic over here. Fantastic. So dairy causes problems for a couple of reasons. One, only 21% of adults can digest lactose, which means that the rest of us are lactose intolerant. Now, an intolerance is not an allergy that makes your throat close. It's not a sensitivity that causes inflammation. It's just this thing that you have. You can't digest it. So maybe it causes gas, bloating, diarrhea. It's an easy, low-hanging fruit to get rid of if you do have bloating, diarrhea, or gas, or even really honestly constipation. I'm not going to cut this time. I'm just going to throw this whole thing right in there. Also not in the recipe, but it's in the garden. You can throw whatever you want for herbs in here, including dried Italian seasoning or pesto, whatever makes it easier for you. So yes, dairy can cause diarrhea, constipation, and bloating, absolutely. And getting rid of it for 3 weeks or so really does help us to understand if there is something going on in terms of digestion. Now, if you don't have digestive issues, but you still want to know if you should be dairy free, then here's some reasons why and some reasons why not. Maybe one of the reasons why you would want to be dairy free is because it does have, so dairy is milk from a cow, a sheep, or a goat, and that mammal has created that milk to make their baby grow big and strong, which means there's a lot of growth hormones in it, even if they're not added, so even if it says no, whatever, added growth hormone, you're still having the natural growth hormones that it's made of. So that can cause some immune issues. That can also cause some skin stuff going on. Maybe there's an allergy of some kind. More on that later. Okay, I'm going to cut up my sun-dried tomatoes just into strips here. And my chicken's done searing. So that's ready. Okay. Now I'm going to pull this pan back onto the heat. Chicken's all nice and seared. I'm going to throw in my garlic. If you were putting onions in, this is when you would put them in. I throw in my sun-dried tomatoes. With herbs, you can think of it like this. The firmer the herb, the earlier you can put it in. So rosemary is really tough and firm, so I'm going to put that in at the beginning. Thyme, really tough and firm. I'm going to put that in at the beginning. Basil, really flimsy and kind of, so we'll put that in at the end. Same with like parsley or something like that. Okay, I definitely don't want to burn this. So I'm just going to stir that up, and again, pull it off the heat, because when you burn garlic, it's not great. Coconut milk goes in. Be careful with this, because sometimes there's a layer of fat on the top, and we want to make sure all that fat comes out so that this doesn't break into that weird, like, separated consistency. Crank it back up. This one's pretty easy, honestly. So I've got my piece of thyme and my rosemary. I'm also going to throw these puppies in here. I'm going to put my pieces of chicken. So let me bring you a piece so that you can see what it looks like. All right, well, that's happening. Just a little bit more about who should be dairy-free or not. So honestly, I'm dairy-free for a couple of reasons. One, with Crohn's, there's always like this connection with breakouts and acne and skin issues. And also with Crohn's, the hormones, the growth hormones in the dairy can affect your hormones more so, or your autoimmune process. Another reason you might want to be dairy free is because it causes mucus buildup, so more excess mucus production, and that's going to mean that your throat clearing, or have a lot of snot or whatever. So again, a dairy elimination to see if that gets better is important. And then if it does get better, after 3 weeks, try to reintroduce something and see how that works. And if it does make your mucus come back, or if it makes your diarrhea come back, then you know that dairy is not great for you personally. Some people use an enzyme called lactase, which breaks up the milk sugar in the dairy. But again, that doesn't have anything to do with mucus production or hormonal or immune kind of side effects. And it also doesn't have to do with the proteins in the dairy, casein and whey, which sometimes people have sensitivities to those proteins. So remembering that there's a lot at play here, but not everyone has to be dairy-free. And some reasons that you wouldn't want to go dairy-free are because dairy is an awesome source of protein. It is very easy to snack. So like for someone that had diabetes, if they were looking for a carb, fat, protein snack, and they were in the office, having some cheese and crackers and fruit is a really good kind of easy way to do that. Or a yogurt, really easy way to do that. So, there's definitely something to be said for that. Stay tuned for how to finish the chicken off, and also my final thoughts on who should be dairy-free. So when it's on medium low, so this is on 2 out of like 10, I guess. You see it's got that nice gentle bubble. That's really what I want. I don't want it to be too aggressively bubbling, and I don't want it to be too light either, or it won't cook. To tell if this is done, all you have to do is kind of pull one of these pieces of chicken out or poke it and see how soft it is. You can see that this is really kind of shreddable and delightful. Oh, come on. I'm doing this with my left hand, guys. Okay, you can see how it's shreddable. It's really soft. It's tender. It's beautiful. So that's what we want. Now, if you found that this sauce, see how this looks pretty thick and nice. If you found it was too thin, you could always just add, take those pieces of chicken out and add your, like turn up the heat, boil it for a little while until it does get a little thicker, and then add your chicken back. So here I am adding my green onions and my basil. Amazing. And again, if you wanted to add pesto right now, if you wanted to just not add anything, that's fine too. But there we go. So we've got our dairy-free Marry Me chicken. What could be more beautiful? That's it. Thanks for coming. Don't forget, if you want the recipes, they're in this episode description. Click the link, and that Google Drive is updated every week.